Joe, do you know if Bob's joining our meeting?
I do not. I did not get to speak to him today. I mean, Joe did say he sent him an invite. We had talked about that on Tuesday, but
Okay.
Did he respond to you, Joe?
I left a message on his cell phone. If he had any issues, I gave him my cell phone number. He could call me. Do you want to try to give him a quick call?
I just text him to see if he was going to join.
Yeah, I don't know if something came up or he didn't tell me he wasn't.
He's on vacation, so when I spoke with him yesterday, he said he would try to join.
So he knew the time. It was today at 6, obviously. So.
Well, if you guys want, I can start kind of on the progress, see if he joins. But that's up to you guys. However you want to do it. I
think that's good.
Keep everybody waiting. So first off, thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for having me at the meeting. I appreciate it. I haven't had a chance to kind of do a project update over the last few months, obviously, with all that's been going on in the world. So it's a good chance to kind of get caught up from a project status. Obviously, you guys know there's multiple phases, primarily focused today on the phase 1 and phase 2 portions. As far as phase 1, everything has been signed off and is 100% complete. That goes from the LED lighting updates to the first phase control upgrades, building envelope upgrades, water conservation, faucets, toilets and such, the network and Ethernet upgrades, camera upgrades for security, the Blue Point rapid emergency response, captive entrance work is done. All the captive entrance work is done. The interactive classroom at the middle school. Additional camera scope was completed. The balance of the additional cameras at the high school and stadium and field house are completed. And then we have a line item on here for the fencing contingency. We had a credit that was to be applied to this project, but we're applying it to the structural steel in phase 2. We'll get to that in a minute. There are a few open items. We do have some warranty items to address. We've been working with Sandy on that, myself and Rich Mader, with Synaptics Cloudcast. So we have some gentlemen coming hopefully in the next 2 weeks, definitely before school starts here at the end of August. But we've got 3 or 4 cameras that are down, and we've got a couple of cameras that are, sending some signals that don't quite make sense. And so we're going to have some guys come in from Cloudcast and take a look at those. I think they're primarily at the high school. And then
Joe, I have a quick question on that before you go.
Yes.
Do we have a maintenance contract for those? So, like, who cleans them? Who updates firmware on them? All that stuff.
So right now, no, you do not have any type of maintenance contract. I believe that was brought up in the past. Don't quote me on that.
Okay.
But I believe that was put on and tabled at some point early on, probably towards the end of phase 1 security upgrades. Those were some of the first things done a year ago and completed.
Yeah.
So I know there's been some talk of that, and I believe that Rich Mader is looking into kind of putting something together for you guys to look at, because I would recommend on something like this that we're helping through warranty issues, and we turned a lot of documentation over to Steve Fort, and they're going to have some training. Did you have it this week, Sandy? It got moved up, right?
We had the door training this afternoon.
Okay. So go ahead.
No, it's just good to know. I want to know whether that's something that our IT team needs to be responsible for and put on their list of things to care about during the school year. And then if it's something like, I don't know, if we have maintenance guys that get up there once a month and wipe the lens off or whatever, But I just know generally we have to keep on top of those things for, I guess, firmware upgrades for the cameras themselves because they tend to get out of date and then just get dirty.
Oh, right. Yeah. So I agree. There probably should be, uh, that would be something you guys would go, direct with Cloudcast. It's not something, I mean, I'll help, don't get me wrong, but it's not something we're looking as a pass through or something through ADM to manage. It's, we
Right.
would recommend a maintenance contract with that scenario. Definitely, even though you do have, your IT personnel that can help, deal with certain things, but to your
Right.
point, yes, camera firmware upgrades, licensing updates, a little bit of training help here and there for new people that come on board, scanning, checking cameras. I agree. It's probably something that you guys need to look into, and something, like I said, Rich Mader is going to probably is putting together, and I'll follow up with him on that. But yeah, I think he had talked to Sandy when we were in our meeting this week about
Yeah.
looking at
Yeah.
something to put together.
Yeah,
for
they
you
just send
guys.
over like whatever they would have as like initial terms for a maintenance contract.
Right.
I mean, if it's per camera or per camera per year or whatever it is.
Yeah, I would recommend at least something a couple of times. And
Yeah.
I don't even have to have somebody out there every month or whatever, but
Right,
yeah,
right. Like
somebody
twice a
putting eyes
year, I
on it.
think.
Yeah.
And then as needed for break fix.
The questions that I have is with up the high school with the card reading system, is that 100%? Everything's working good with people being able to enter the school and exit?
Yes, with the exception of the site codes. And Sandy, did you get an update on that today and
Yeah.
kind of in through your training?
Yes, yes, and we're going to get that switched over. There's a lot of stuff that whole system provides, so it's a lot of work. A lot of work isn't complete yet, so we're going to have to really work in there and get a lot of that stuff squared away with parameters for and days and times, holidays, all of that kind of stuff. So it's going to take us a little while, but we're gonna plug away on it. So, but the facility code is ready to change now.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, from an infrastructure standpoint, yes, the doors, the readers, the cameras, all that stuff's installed. But now we're in the kind of the setup phase. To Sandy's point, things are
Super.
operational, but there's things that you're going to want to customize to your needs, Sandy, obviously. And
Right.
you learned a little bit today, but we can obviously keep helping through Rich Mader's team to tune up some stuff or make sure you guys have what you need to at least be pointed in the right direction to make the changes that you guys want to make and monitor.
Right.
So yeah, back to the doors and cameras. So like I said, we've got a few cameras down. We're going to either replace or see if there's a wiring problem, whatever. And then we have a few door readers, I think mainly at the middle school, where we robbed Peter to pay Paul on one of the doors for some hardware to get it working. The card readers, that needs to be addressed. So again, when those guys come to look at the cameras, we'll take a peek at these doors if we can identify them. And we'll get those readers put on or whatever we need to get installed. There again, warranty / some punch list items, but for the most part, everything's up and installed, and the project's final build. So as far as phase one, it's kind of closed again, as an ongoing project, but yet we're still here with punch list and some warranty items, and we'll be here for a while, considering we've got phase two going on. So taking us to phase two, a lot of updates to give you guys for phase two. So at Claire Barton, the chiller replacement is complete. It's I'm going to call it 99%. I only say that because we had a warranty compressor issue, and we're waiting on a part for the compressor from Carrier. But other than that, the chiller itself is up and running. It's making cold water. The units in the classrooms are, pumping out chilled water or pumping out cold air. So that's a good thing. A unit was factory started. Cooling to the gymnasium, we have that completed at 100%. We had a couple of punch list items on that guy to take care of a few weeks back to get some more airflow across the coils. So we took care of that, but it's good to go. The functional diagnostics, which is us looking at all the HVAC equipment that's existing, kind of belts, filters, coil cleans, tune-ups, that kind of thing. That's completed. Upgrading the PA system and the door props are also 100% complete. High school, the chiller plant, it's about 40% as of June. I would say we're more in the 50% range right now. You guys are well aware, we're doing some structural steel work. We're having some beams made now, and I believe either today or tomorrow, we were starting on getting the floor demoed, and possibly over the weekend as well in those classrooms, C101 and D100 or whatever they're called, to start shoring up that beam on the roof. We were going to get some roof done this week as well, roof work. So it's about 50%. We anticipate the chiller being set probably first part of August, and hopefully up and running by the 10th is my goal. So it's 2 weeks before school's supposed to start. And I want that because we want to start wringing moisture out of the building, and we want to make sure this thing's, doing what it's supposed to before the kids and teachers get back. What date do the teachers come back to school? I didn't know somebody caught me. I just said, what date were the teachers to report back? You guys have that date?
Probably about the middle of August.
It's
Okay.
actually Friday, August 21st.
The 21st. Okay. So we should have that chiller up and running way before that. Okay.
Hey, Jeff
Yep.
or Joe, and
Yes.
or whomever, are we having athletic activities in that building?
Well, I could tell you this. I can't answer that specifically, but August 20th is the first new teacher day. Now, typically they can come in, but I'm going to try for them not to. It could be virtual, but sometimes for a new teacher, they have some stuff that they have to do. But actually, the 21st is a Friday, and then the Monday the 24th and Tuesday the 25th, those are going to be professional development days. And my goal is to make sure that they are online as much as possible.
I just didn't know if the football team or cheerleader squad or band were going to have camps in August.
Right now, they're on schedule to have some sort of camp. How specifically it's going to look, it's going to depend on the situation. But I believe that the band camp is at a different time than the football. Sandy, do you know anything about that?
Yeah, it's 1 week prior to the football camp, and it is 1 week with the football camp. They do alternating, and then
Are they in the building or are they outside?
right now they're conditioning in the building. The football team is conditioning in the building, and so will volleyball. Volleyball will obviously be in the building.
Is it hot? Like, is the air
Not in
conditioning?
the gyms
No,
are air conditioned.
the gym's air conditioned.
Yeah,
So different.
and it's working. Yeah, it's on a different system
Got it.
in the hallways too.
Yeah, so the chiller itself that was up on the roof and the new one we're putting in primarily dealt with the classrooms.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, I don't want to butt in. I know this is a little off topic, but Mr. Blazevich and I had a conversation before whether or not the extracurricular activities were part of the sports plan under Act 59 that we already passed earlier. Mr. Solomon said they were. For your information, Mr. Blazevich.
Thank you.
So there is some cooling in the high school in certain areas that has self-contained package units or mechanical cooling other than the chiller. So to Sandy's point, yes, the gyms are being cooled. The gym and auditorium hallways, the auditorium is still, I believe, cooling. And certain offices and spaces within the building where people are kind of working. But the classrooms obviously are down. To that end, adding cooling to the gymnasium's done. That's 100%. Adding cooling to the hallways is 100% complete. The functional diagnostics is probably about 95% complete. I'll just say to save us time, the functional diagnostics of all HVAC equipment are complete everywhere except the high school. There, like I said, it's about 95%. I sent an initial punch list over to Sandy of some things that were broken that I'm sure Herb probably already knows about, but we just wanted to notate. Wasn't a very long list. Just probably a dozen or so things across the 5 schools we're finished in and stadium, or 4 schools and stadium. So that went well. PA system and door prop again are completed. Middle school BAS control upgrades, that's going to ramp up even more. It's about 40% complete now, but it's really going to ramp up in August and go on for a month or two. They'll shift to night work so that once school's back in, they won't be interrupting the kids and staff. So that'll shift to some evening work after August. That'll probably take a couple of months to do. And then the door prop alarms there are complete as well, with the exception of some door hardware I mentioned earlier that we've got to replace. Field house, the sound system and the doors are completed. Homeville, domestic hot water system has been done. It's 100% complete. The chiller for classroom cooling is at 95%. We are starting that machine up, factory starting it up on Monday. We have a factory rep coming out. So we're going to start blowing some cold air into the classrooms beginning Monday, Tuesday, and next week. And those things we'll be exercising those pretty heavy. So we'll try not to freeze people out, but we want to, again, we want to keep those things running as much as we can, wring out as much moisture in the building, as well as, exercise that chiller to make sure there's no issues with it before the kids get into school. So that'll be up and going next week. HVAC units at the modular classrooms are done 100%. Unit vents are 100% complete, installed, controls are done. Insulation is going to be wrapping up this week. So I'd call that 95% as well with the unit vents and insulation. Cooling to auditorium is completed 100%. Cooling to the gymnasiums is 100%. PA system and door props are 100%. So right now, Homeville's getting ready to get wrapped up, and we're ready to move more people over to the high school to work on that chiller system. We got a couple of guys over there now. We'll be shifting a couple more once Homeville's done the beginning of next week.
Joe, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Is there a reason that there's no venting upstairs at Homeville on the second floor?
You mean as far as the hallway cooling?
Yes, sir.
I believe that was presented, but for whatever reason, it wasn't picked as part of the scope. That was just something that didn't make it into the scope. I think it was more of a focus on entering the school and the traffic that's in the downstairs hallways. But yeah, for whatever reason, that was not picked as a scope to add cooling to the hallways upstairs. So yeah, it wasn't part of the project for whatever reason. And unfortunately, I can't tell you why. I would imagine it was a cost thing, or they wanted to use resources, monies for resources elsewhere. That's the only thing I can probably venture a guess for you.
My concern is it's super, super hot in the halls. It's very narrow and hot. And I'm wondering if that's going to be factored into our energy savings.
Yes, it will be. During classes, teachers are going to want to keep doors closed for whatever security or privacy reasons or interruptions.
Yeah, they do keep them closed.
Right. But in between classes, really when you start, in those times of year, even with the doors shut for 45 minutes a clip, if they're open for, 10, 15 minutes in between classes, believe it or not, there should be enough spill out into the hallway to kind of absorb some of that. You really, it shouldn't be anything that you should be energy penalty. That was figured into the calculations. In other words, okay, if we're going to have warmer hallways and then we're going to cool the classrooms and some of that air migrates in, believe it or not, they do have calculations for that to say, we're going to have a little bit more of a load. So you shouldn't experience any energy penalty for that. It's taken into account when they did their calculations. So it would be nice if you had it up there, but for whatever reason, it wasn't selected. So stadium,
Joe,
yes.
Can I interrupt?
Mm-hmm.
Can you guys see that it looks like it's recording in the upper left-hand corner?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm not recording this. I don't have any idea why that's now. Okay, now it went away. Who was someone accidentally recording it? Okay, it's gone. It's gone. So go ahead, Joe.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't see on my side here. I can't see anything with recording. If you're talking upper left-hand corner, all I see is everybody's smiling faces. Stadium, the exhaust fans systems back up and running. Those are completed, and the door prop alarms are completed and have been for some time. And then
it's bad. That recording thing is back on. It's on. I could see it. It's.
And I don't. I mean, we typically don't record these meetings. So is someone? I mean, is someone? Is that on someone's computer or?
See, on mine, I'm seeing record, but it's not. The red light's not on it, so I don't believe I'm recording.
It popped back up on mine too.
I don't think the only person that can record, I think, is the host.
Yeah, who's hosting this?
I'm hosting it, and I did not record. I did not shut it off or turn it on when it popped back up.
Oh well. Someone's lacking entertainment and they want to watch us later, then
Hey,
I feel
Joe.
bad for them.
Joe,
Yes.
or the other Joe.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
If you click on participants at the bottom of your screen, it'll bring up the list of everybody. It'll show you who's recording. And now nobody's recording because it stopped.
Yeah.
Just keep an eye on that list.
I believe it could possibly be the 90s R&B group Tony.
Apparently you have a fan club, Toad.
Has done it again.
All
right, well, proceed, I guess.
And then the last area were just the common measures that were additional camera scope that were done in as part of phase 2. And there was 40 additional cameras added or 13 at the high school, 11 more in the stairwells. Practice field and tennis court had 8. 4 cameras at safes, and then option 6 had 6 or 40 extra cameras, but I think that was campus wide. And then there was the chiller structural steel. Again, I talked through that a little bit earlier. That's in progress right now as we speak. And like I said, that will be done before we get the chiller set on the roof here in the next couple of weeks. Any questions, concerns?
I have just a general question, and this might not be for you. What's the retention policy or schedule for the video? So how long do we hold recordings for?
That's probably
we're under a litigation hold currently in the federal case, so we have to keep everything. It's normally, I believe, there's a 6-month or 9-month hold, but because of these are. Once your minutes are approved, usually you can destroy the recording. But we're under litigation.
I meant for the cameras, security cameras.
Oh, that would follow our policy.
Do we have a policy on security footage? Okay. I'm assuming the chief would know that. The only reason I ask is because the more cameras we add, the more storage it takes to hold the video. And if we have a lot of video that we have to hold for say we're recording 30 days worth of footage, 24/7, it gets very large, very quickly, depending on the crispness or the quality of the video and how the cameras are set. And it costs a decent amount of money to store all of that. If most of this stuff will probably be based on motion. If there's motion, something's recording. So a lot of cameras outside will be always recording because there's always traffic or wind or whatever. I'm just trying to get a sense of how well tuned are all these cameras, because we have a lot of them. We keep putting more in, and the decisions around why we have to have so many. I mean, I get it, it's safety and everything, but all it does is show you what happened. It doesn't prevent things from happening. So I'm just throwing it out there. This is predating me. But it's something that's the IT director and I talk about is we have a lot of cameras, we have a lot of storage for that video. Is it making sense? Because over time we're gonna have to replace that storage with more new equipment, and then these cameras break, we'll have to replace those. It's an ongoing expense. You know, we can buy these things one time, but at some point in the future we're gonna have to replace them because they're gonna get old. And I just want to make sure that we are thinking about that as we continue to add cameras to buildings, that we put them in places where they're required versus nice to have.
I can tell you that as just because I know a lot of guys are new on buildings and grounds, and I think Joe can at least attest, and Sandy, Dr. Hoover went through and chose where he wanted all the cameras. And then he wanted additional cameras, and he went through a wish list, and then we cut some of them back. Is that correct, Sandy? Is that, I think that's how that went.
Okay. That makes sense. I mean, we should have Chief Pritchard or our security company telling us where those cameras should go because they're security cameras.
He walked with Dr. Hoover on that last phase. Yes, and I believe Mr. Gatos, I believe he was involved as well.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Joe, I wanted to know if you could give us an update on the classrooms at Homeville, the music room that was being made into 2 classrooms. And I know that we were behind on that.
Yeah, so how I understand this, and right now, basically need floors and walls completed. The room themselves have been split, the drywall's up, the structure is completed. Between the 2 rooms, you need a few ceiling tile in the one room. The cooling is installed, so it's able to have air conditioning in the one space. And basically, you're looking from a construction standpoint, floors and walls finishing, whatever floor covering, VCT or whatever you guys decide that's going to go into that space. As far as the timeline on it, well, what happened there was that was something that Mr. Rosito worked with his project manager at the time, Paul Hudak, and Dr. Hoover, and they kind of decided, okay, this is what they were going to do with this space. So construction began on it, but it was never completed because nothing was ever formalized as far as how it was to be managed through the district, whether it was how you guys were to pay for it. Was it to be added as a change to the existing energy project? Was it going to be something separate that you guys funded out of a general fund? So I guess as part of phase 4 that was being kicked around, the tires on phase 4 were being kicked around. There were provisions put into phase 4 to be able to finish that room or those rooms. There's not it looks a little bit ominous in there, but there's not a lot of work to do. It's something that if you guys made a decision on how you wanted to proceed, whether it's, something in phase 4, or you wanted to do outside with some general dollars, it can be done in, a couple of weeks, both rooms. So it's not something that's going to be months and months and months to complete. But that's kind of where it stood. It never really rolled through any, and I don't know if I want to call it formal channels through our project team at ABM. And really, it didn't run through any formal channels through the gentleman at Whistler Construction either. It was kind of a, hey, we're going to get this kind of started, and we'll get it pushed through at some point. Well, then things kind of, phase 3 went through and nothing really happened with phase 3 doing those rooms. And then phase 4 came to be. And I know that that's been a discussion item for you folks for, a little while now. So it's back and forth going through different estimates and getting some scopes. But yes, in phase 4, there are provisions, not to say you have to do all of phase 4, of course, but there's different line items in there. There are provisions to get that finished.
You said a couple weeks. That's kind of all we have if we do open.
I don't disagree. And so the sooner that a decision would be made by the entire board, I guess, the better. And I know that's something that I was hoping Bob was able to jump on and kind of speak a little bit more in detail too on what he felt from a mobilization standpoint. What his general plan of attack was. Once the board approved the go ahead with this. So I don't want to put words in his mouth. I don't want to speak for him, but I know when we walked it, with Sandy and Dave, the head custodian, myself and Mr. Fisher, he was not overly concerned, nor was I, about the time frame. But yes, you're right. If we drag this out 3, 4, 5 more weeks, it's going to be very difficult to get knocked out. So the sooner that a decision is made internally, the sooner those guys can get kind of going on that and get it done.
And you said there's air conditioning on one side.
So yes, the one side it was one big room and it had one air conditioner in it. Well, when they put the second set of walls up, or the second wall, the middle wall to split the rooms, there will be a ductless split system that I believe Sandy said Herb Cox will be installing. So the district will be doing that themselves. It'll save you some time and money there. I don't know when that's anticipated to go into play.
He has it's there.
You already got it?
I believe he has it already, yes.
Oh, that's great.
So both rooms will have, heating, cooling, and be ready to go from that standpoint. But it's floors and walls right now is the biggest thing, is, painting the walls and getting the flooring down and then moving the shelving and things back in there.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Well, I guess that's probably a segue into our next conversation pertaining to the proposed phase 4. I know Sandy, she provided us with the committee with some information based on the line item list that we've seen multiple times over the last couple of weeks or month. And she kind of went through and prioritized it for us, and based on her and the administration's recommendations on what we probably should consider to include in this phase 4 before we wrap up the ABM project. So I don't know, Sandy, if you want to touch on some of those things, and we could go from there.
Yes, some of the important issues I think are getting the walls in the gyms painted. Both gyms haven't been painted in the 20 years, and you can understand it's not a custodial chore to do. It's high. We need scaffolding, but it needs a professional job, and so I believe that both of those need done in this project. The other one is the wall behind Homeville, and Mr. Fisher was going to speak about that a little bit. He talked to Joe, and Joe, you probably were sitting next to him the other day when he was talking about some of the applications that they may use for that wall. We already talked to Butch Anthony from the borough regarding those issues of that street being so tight, and so he has some ideas, and it's not what some people thought was him putting a wall in front of the other wall. It's not doing it like that. It's taking down that wall and rebuilding it, and I really think that that's needed after I looked at it again the other day. The bathrooms, stalls, and tile floors at Clara Barton, that's a job that I think money would be well spent on. And the gutter guards on the roofs at Homeville, and the wall at Clara Barton, where the tile floors and the bathroom partitions would be placed. That wall needs rebuilt, and Mr. Fisher looked at that as well. The asphalt paving at the maintenance garage, and the concrete sidewalks at the stadium.
Sandy, the one question I had was, them gymnasiums up the high school, the auxiliary gym, they needed painted probably 5 or 10 years ago. If you take a good look at them, they're really a mess. Whenever they did the main gym floor was refinished, I believe a few years ago, Sandy.
2 years ago.
Yeah, they didn't do the auxiliary gym probably hasn't been touched in 25 or 30 years. It looks bad. I mean, it really needs done.
Well, The gym floor, you mean?
Yes.
The
Yeah,
gym
that-
floor. The gym
I'm
floor is something that I got a proposal on to do it this year, and this is before everything else came up, obviously. So we can do that, and I think we should paint the auxiliary gym first, and then do the floors next year.
Okay.
Yeah, what she just mentioned, the list that she just went through, Nick, is what she feels we should handle with this
Now.
with ABM now, and then everything else that's left on this list, we could kind of build into a 3-year plan or however we want to structure it, and we can handle that on our end. And like Sandy mentioned, she received pricing that she thinks is fair and a little bit more
Right.
competitive, yeah, for us, for those type of things.
Right, and the difference with those projects, the gym floors, both at Homeville, the auxiliary gym, the bleachers at Homeville, they're vendors that have state contract pricing. So those projects don't need to be advertised and bid. We can do them without bidding them, and that the floors are the same company that did the high school main gym floor. Scott was happy with it. I'm happy with that company. So we would just, after the painting gets done, we would use that company to do those gym floors.
Okay.
What about the basement class at Homeville?
That is on the list too, and Mr. Fisher was going to speak about that too. That's another room that he feels is very little work, and he does feel, Gina, very confident that after Joe and he looked at those rooms the other day, that he can get those done fairly quickly once he
Okay.
gets the approval to do them. The classroom in the basement of Homeville, they want to use as a STEM lab. So that they would cut a hole in the wall so that the teacher would have access. That wasn't a big deal to him. There's very little work in that room, just sectioning off the duct work that I think you saw it too, needs done. And really he's willing to do that, and on a time and materials basis. So he doesn't feel like it's much at all to do.
The sidewalks at the stadium, is that something that they can get done before school? The concrete?
I think once they get approval, then we'll find out.
Okay.
If
I
they
know it's
have
pushing
approval
it.
to do it, yes, yeah. And the asphalting at the garage the same way. I mean, but we have
Yeah.
time to do that. That doesn't have to be, that's not a school.
Yeah.
Is the concrete at the stadium, is that a complete removal and repair, or is it just repair certain sections?
I believe it's that sidewalk all along the right outside the ticket booth. We actually had somebody trip and fall over that. It's uneven, so I'm not sure the length of that concrete, but I can find out.
Okay.
So Sandy, just so I know, the document you sent yesterday, and I do appreciate you sending that. So everything where there's a yes, that's what we're looking to include into this scope for our purposes, like the project list for what we would be recommending get done for now. And then the items where there's a no is a not now, something that we would put into, like Tony said, like a 3-year roadmap. And then there's ones here that say like B&G 2020, get measured, quoted, like the main office and guidance office. Would that be a yes for this proposal, or is that something we would put off?
No, that's something that I plan on getting measured and done this year, if I can. And I'm meeting that vendor next week for
Okay.
them to measure it.
But it's not a right away thing. Like
That is a right away thing.
Okay.
That one is. The ones that say no, B&G, those are the ones I have proposals on, but we would want to wait until next year to do them.
Okay.
Well, Sandy, would that fall under quote unquote phase 4 with ABM, or is that something that you're going to do on your own?
That's something that I would do on my own.
Right. So the yeses are just like.
The yeses are for ABM.
And we have numbers on all of this from them.
They're on that other sheet.
The other sheet. Yeah. Okay.
I know I would recommend us getting this starting on this now to be on the agenda on Monday. What do you others think? What do you think, Matt or Gina?
I agree. I'm just trying to fathom. My biggest concerns are the rooms that we're going to use.
Yeah,
If we
definitely.
should start off, and you know, the concrete work and things that I'm worried that we're going to need to have done in time. So yeah, I think we need to start sooner rather than later,
Yeah, I
especially
think
on the classrooms.
I agree with you. We need to order this because I have to imagine there's not just endless people out there waiting to start on every single one of these at the same time. That we
Yeah.
need to order them, and it makes sense so that when we open school, that we have the most effective use of our space.
Yeah. And can they get the carpet done for you, Sandy, relatively quick?
I believe they can. And we're going to discuss, you know, if we want carpet. Are you talking about in the office and guidance offices?
Yeah.
If we want to do like flooring, like what's in the modular classrooms, or if we want to do a carpet, what's now used as carpet tile, because it's so easy to replace if it gets bad and replace
And
sections of
clean.
it. So we're going to take a look at that, and I'll get with the high school principal to see what he prefers to in that area. But I'm pretty certain we can get it done.
That's good.
And that's the office area, so that's nothing that the kids are going to be walking on.
No, but it's still just disarray when you got all
right.
this going on.
Right.
And these, all of these add up to be within our budget. So the project list.
I don't think it exhausts the entire
No.
1.6. I think we'll have some left. We'll have some left over.
Okay. Joe, do you know, like, what we would have left over to this?
I don't know, because obviously there's some items that are time and material which we don't have a price. So I'll get with Chris on how to write the motion to incorporate that. And I don't know with the wall. I too went and looked at it, and it's a lot bigger than I thought it was, and it's
big
very
undertaking.
long. And I don't think it's going to fall tomorrow, but it's not in great shape. So I don't know, if we can have pricing by the Monday meeting to get on the agenda. I'm not sure on that.
Well,
I think what we would be doing is approving that this is to be
completed. Yeah.
And then the pricing, it's going to have to be within the budgets. And,
Yeah. Okay. That's fine. We could do that.
And that way she has the permission to go get this stuff taken care of. And if things are way out of line as far as pricing goes, then we can talk about it then.
Yep, I agree. Fine by me. So I guess Joe and Krisha and Sandy, make sure we have everything included, on in the motion that's appropriate for Monday to complete this phase 4.
Okay.
And then this would be ABM, right? So this is all, they would have a phase 4 report, progress report for us weekly or monthly or whatever that would be.
Yeah, it would be. You would get the reports. This will be phase 4 application 1, phase 4 application 2. And what they do is they bill us as things are completed, so we're not paying for anything that's not completed.
Okay.
And it would all be paid out of the Capital Projects Fund 2019.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. The Construction Fund 2019.
Is there anything else anybody would like to talk to about tonight?
No, I don't think so. Does anybody have anything else? No.
I had a question. I don't know if anybody can answer it. Maybe Sandy can. About the handicap parking spots up at the stadium.
Yeah.
I called. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I looked at them, and they've been like that. Obviously, since construction was done up there 20 years ago, 25 years ago, probably now. Initially, they had the handicap spots there. I believe it was when Mr. Seeli was still here, prior to me being in buildings and grounds, that they had asked to put more handicap spots up there. And so they just kept going down that row. So him and Mr. Graves worked on that, I believe, together. But I looked at it, and it's where the sidewalk is.
Yeah.
And it's kind of in between the home side and the visitor side. So they used to open that gate to the visitor side. I don't know if you recall that. They didn't make everybody go through the main gate. They used to open the other gate on the other side. So I think that their reasoning for putting that in the center was so people could go one way or the other and use
Okay.
that sidewalk in between. Because if you look, that's where all the handicap signs are placed, is
Yeah.
along that sidewalk. So we didn't change anything ever. So they painted them last year. In fact, I looked at them with the maintenance guys. We were talking about this morning, and we don't even have to paint those this year because after they paved last year, they were painted and they're still in nice shape. So
Yeah. It just seemed like a long walk all the way from the end of the lot when if you could put some on the other side behind it.
Yeah.
They used to use that gate right there. They had a ticket gate right there next to the handicap spots they would walk in.
Okay, well, that explains it then. Thank you, Sandy.
You're welcome.
Well, I guess that's it, folks. Thank you for coming tonight.
All right, thanks, guys.